Recording of Nectar and a Sieve by Kamala Markandaya, Part 1, Chapter 15. One day, Raja went out as usual and did not come back. At dusk, they brought his body home slung between two men, one at the head and one at the feet. There was a small trickle of blood running from his mouth, fresh and still bright red, and more blood from a cut in his head, dark and congealed, here and matting his hair. They laid him on the ground. They bowed their heads and shuffled their feet and spoke in low voices, and then they went away. It was real, yet it seemed like a nightmare. It could not be true that my son lay dead before me. Thus my thoughts, dazed and confused, injecting pain where there was numbness, and my mind feared to be touching the edges of realization, then fleeing from it in terror. He had been caught, they said, something about money. What had my son to do with money, who had not a pie of his own? He was not very strong, they told me. They merely laid hands on him, and he fell, as if I did not know how thin and brittle he had grown. But why should others lay hands on him? They told me, but the sense of their words escaped. They told me, but I could not remember. They repeated themselves again and again, but I kept forgetting. I heard Ira began to sing in a low Deezer. She was rocking gently back and forth, and she was crying. "What are you crying for?" I said. "You have little enough strength without dissolving it in tears." She looked at me stupidly, and away, and down at her brother. Her sorrow flowed to me. The numbness began to clear. I tried frantically to keep it. I might as well have tried to imprison a cloud. "For this I have given birth to you. Birth, my son, that you should lie in the end at my feet with ashes in your face and coldness in your limbs, and yourself departed without a trace, leaving this huddle of bones and flesh without meaning. Already I think the eyes must be closed, though death has glazed them, and I do so. The jaw must be tied, for it is sagging. I put a bandage about it. The body must be washed, and I wash it. And Ira comes to help and cleanses the mouth, which I have forgotten to do. These things were you. Now there is no connection whatsoever. The sorrow within me is not for this body, which has suffered and in suffering has let slip the spirit, but for you, my son." Nathan prepares the bier. I see him lifting the body on it. Then he goes out, walking towards the town. At dawn, the funeral drums begin, and soon our friends and neighbors come. Granny first, though hardly able to walk. The Durgan, Kanan and his wife, bearing a few jasmine buds, and Kali, bringing with her a muslin cloth to cover the bier. They pay their respects in silence, and when the sun has risen, the men pick up the bier and depart. But the women stay behind, for this is the custom. All that morning the sound of the drums comes faintly to us, rising and falling, with the wind, until at last a final beat comes quivering through the air, and we all strain our ears for the next. But this sound, which has already gone, is the last. Now not even a heap of bones, only a few ashes to show that once a man has lived. Raja had not been dead 3 full days when 2 officials from the tannery came to see us, and the one who was tall and burly with long mustaches did all the talking, and the other, who was thin and insignificant, stepped timidly in his shadow and agreed with what he said. "The watchmen were only doing their duty," the tall one began. They are engaged to protect our property. You understand?" "I understand." "No violence was used," he said, "only enough to stop him. You agree, it was necessary." "He was doing nothing. On the contrary, he was seen in the yard where he had no business to be, and when the chowkidars caught him, they found he had stolen a calf skin. I do not believe it. I said. What use had he for such a thing? Not in itself, maybe, he replied in a strained voice, as if struggling to keep his temper. But of course, he could have sold it anywhere. We have had a lot of losses recently. You cannot blame my son, I said wearily. We live from hand to mouth, as you can see. There is no wealth here, such as your goods might have brought. I am not blaming your son alone, he said carefully. But of course, it is well known your sons have been troublemakers. Now, we do not want any trouble from you, you understand? The lad was caught in the act of stealing, maybe as you say, for the first time, and in a moment of weakness. Still, he was caught, and for the consequences that followed. No one was to blame except himself. You should not have struggled. In these circumstances, you naturally have no claim on us. Claim? I said. I have made no claim. I do not understand you. He made a gesture of impatience. You may think of it later, and try to get compensation. I warn you, it will not work. Compensation, I thought. What compensation is there for death? I felt confused. I did not understand what he was getting at. There was a pause. The timid man said kindly, he was not brutally treated or anything. You know. They merely tapped him with a lathi as he was trying to escape, and he fell. He must have been very weak or something. He was, I said. He worked hard and ate little. Naturally, it must have been a blow for you, said the timid one. It is hard to lose. That is. He trailed off incoherently, seeing his companion's glance fixed on him. The point is, the other said, and he thumped on the floor to emphasize his point, that no fault attaches to us. Absolutely none. Of course, as my friend has said, it is your loss. But not, remember our responsibility. Perhaps. He went on, you may even be better off. You have many mouths to feed, and the thinner man raised his hand to check him, appalled by the words, yet scared of his own daring. Poor little mouse. That gesture must have taken all his courage. He had none left for speech. His aggressive companion stopped short. The look of surprise spreading over his face was quickly replaced by displeasure. He turned to me. I did not intend to wound you, but sometimes the truth must be stated, unpalatable as it is. I nodded. There was no sense in agreeing or disagreeing. The gulf between us was too wide. It was no use at all flinging our words at each other across the gaping chasm. So you agree, he insisted. No responsibility attaches to us. Yes, I said. My lips felt stiff. I am glad everything is settled then. An unpleasant matter, but amicably settled. He drew his lips back, imitating a smile, and turned triumphantly to his companion. Did I not tell you there would be no trouble? You always fear the worst. I told you they would be reasonable. The other did not look triumphant. If anything, he seemed to have shrunk a little. He avoided looking at me altogether. But as they went out together, he glanced at me quickly, once, and in that brief moment I saw his eyes were grieving. You should not care, I said very softly to him alone. It does not matter. He heard me and half turned, his eyes clearing a little. I am very sorry for you, he said in a low voice. May you find peace. He went, his face overlaid with shame and misery.